Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janna Vallabha Girivardhani Gopi Janna Vallabha Girivardhani Yashodanandana Prajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Prajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Kaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jayam Vishnupada Brahmam Sapati Vrajacharya Ashto Tadashatashishi Maharaj Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Jayam Vishnupad Paramhamsa Parivrajacharya Ashto Tadashatashishi Maharaj Divine Grace Srila BhaktisiddhantaSaraswatiThakura Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Sekaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gauda Bhakti Vrinda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Kopikabina Shama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Navadvip Dham Ki Jai Ganga Yamuna Mai Ki Jai Tulsi Maharani Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Samavita Bhakti Vrinda Ki Jai All glories to the Sambal devotees, all glories to the Sambal devotees, all glories to the Sambal devotees. All glories to the divine appearance of Srila BhaktisiddhantaSaraswatiThakura Prabhupada Ki Jai. So today is the divine appearance of Srila BhaktisiddhantaSaraswatiThakura, and Srila Prabhupada, our Srila Prabhupada wrote a Vyasa Puja offering to Srila BhaktisiddhantaSaraswatiThakura at one particular point in history, quite some years ago, when Srila Prabhupada was in the householder ashram, and Srila Prabhupada, our Srila Prabhupada, he very beautiful glorification of BhaktisiddhantaSaraswatiThakura. And when BhaktisiddhantaSaraswatiThakura read this, these 8 stanzas that Abhaycharan Day wrote, he told the publishers of their, because they had a few magazines going on, devotional magazines, so he said, publish whatever he writes. So, and he appreciated it very much. So it's in all of the Vyasa Puja books to date that we put out, that the BBT puts out, in the very beginning. So I'll just read that. It's about the appearance of SrilaBhaktisiddhantaSaraswatiThakura, Prabhupada. So this is our Srila Prabhupada writing. Adore, adore ye all that happy day, blessed than heaven and sweeter than May, when he appeared at Puri, the holy place, my Lord and Master, his divine grace. O my Master, the evangelic angel, give us thy light, light up thy candle. Struggle for existence, a human race, the only hope, your divine grace. Misled we are, all going astray. Save us, Lord, our fervent prayer. Wonder thy ways to... Okay, excuse me. Pray, sorry. So I'll start over. Misled we are, all going astray. Save us, Lord, our fervent pray. Wonder thy ways to turn our face. Adore thy feet, your divine grace. Forgotten Krishna, we fallen souls. Pain most heavy, the illusions toll. Darkness around, all distress. The only hope, your divine grace. Huh? I said your divine grace. No, it doesn't say that. You're gonna have to talk with. You're gonna have to talk with these BBT India devotees. You're gonna have to WhatsApp or email or whatever.
No, they made probably languages darkness around, all untraced. The only hope is divine grace. That's it.
And
what this one says?
all distress. Message of service thou hast brought, a meaningful life as Chaitanya wrought. Unknown to all, it's full of grace, that's your gift, your divine grace. Absolute as sentient thou hast proved, impersonal calamity thou hast removed. This gives us a life anew and fresh, worship thy feet, your divine grace. Had you not come, who had told the message of Krishna, forceful and bold? That's your right, you have the mace, save me the fallen, your divine grace. The line of service as drawn by you, it's pleasing and healthy as morning dew. The oldest of all, but in a new dress, miracle done, your divine grace. So, there's a poem to BhaktisiddhantaSaraswatiThakura. So, yeah, the BhaktisiddhantaSaraswatiThakura, he was, just before we continue, Om Jnana Tiparandasya Gyananjana Shulakaya Chakshurvanmaditam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Mukam Karitavachalam Pangam Langayate Gidim Yakripatam Ham Vande Shri Gurundiritaranam Vancha Kapatribishcha Kripa Sandibhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhaktivinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So BhaktisiddhantaSaraswatiThakura was on this earthly plane a very revolutionary preacher, in that, he was very forceful, very bold, and he was doing things that practically throughout at least recent history, Vaishnavas weren't doing. Introducing many things. Like, for example, said that he would drive around in a car, and it's even said he went to Radhakund in a car, and he would dress not in just regular dhoti and chadar, but he would wear certain coats and shoes, right? And he'd send his sannyasis out overseas and have his sannyasis also dress in certain ways. And they would live in big, like Bagh Bazaar. I mean, if you go to Bagh Bazaar, it's in Kolkata, temple there, one of the main temples of BhaktisiddhantaSaraswatiThakura. It's still there. And it's huge. And it's a big mansion, practically, in Kolkata. And still to this day, I mean, I went there some time ago, a few times ago when I was in Kolkata, and it's the nicest property around still in the area. And what did he do? He had his sannyasis living there, in this big marble mansion, practically. So he'd do all these radical things, and people were upset by that, actually. He was initiating people, which, by the way, himself was not coming from a Brahmin family. And what he was doing, he was initiating people as Brahmins. Of course, right? We know he was the best of Brahmins, but not coming in a family of Brahmins. But he was initiating Brahmins, and the caste Goswamis, all these different personalities, they very much disliked him for that. You could say they hated him. And they were super envious. And when they're coming through Vraj Mandala, Parikrama, going through Vrindavan, he had a big group of devotees, at least 500. It said even maybe 1,000 participating, even more than 1,000. Huge, big tents were set up because they were going around all around Vrindavan, Parikrama. And it said that when they went through the town of Vrindavan, all these Goswamis were upset, and they closed their doors of the temples. It means the 6 Goswamis, the temples, would close the door. Every one they closed except the Radharaman. And it said that they were throwing rocks at the party, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakura's party. So it was quite a dramatic scene. And then apparently Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakura had a few disciples who were coming from Brahmin families, like very respectable Brahmin families. They were sannyasis. And they, on behalf of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakura, went to all the priests of the temples and said, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakura is qualified in so many ways for this reason, this reason, this reason. We accept him as our guru, so you should also accept him. So somehow or other, after that, they opened the doors and let him in. That's what it said. But still, even though that was the case, throughout his life, he was very much disliked by many people, many materialistically motivated, false, religion-ish type of people. But, of course, he was also loved by many people. And that's how it goes with all preachers, because preaching means that, practically speaking, you're challenging people. You're challenging the very, you could say, core of their nature. It means what they live for, what they stand for, the very foundation of, you're challenging them in every way. And so many preachers, practically every single one of them was at some point hated and by many people and also liked by many people. Just like Haridas Thakur, right? He was, what do you say that was? Flogged? Is that what it is? Flogged? Yeah. Yeah, beaten, right? 22 marketplaces, heavily by the, Asuric Jana, the demonic people. Jesus Christ, right? Crucified, Asuric Jana. And Srila Prabhupada, to this day, there's many people who don't like what he says in his books, or what he says in his lectures, or what his disciples say. It's a challenge to them. And they actually, like Prabhupada said himself, he said, if they knew what I was trying to do, they would lock me up. He's completely challenging the whole, civilization. So preacher means they have to have enemies. Not that they see those people necessarily as their enemies, but those people see them as an enemy. Big challenge. So BhaktisiddhantaSaraswatiThakura was also like that, and in some ways it was in some ways you could say even more intense than our Srila Prabhupada on some level, in the sense of he was in India and completely challenging practically everyone's ideas within India. Because a lot of them have this idea, caste Goswamis, and you can't become a Brahmin unless you're born in a Brahmin family, and he was completely going against all that. So, in other words, he was a fighter, and he was fighting for truth, fighting for Krishna. And he said that there was there's many, he wrote many things, and he spoke a lot, gave many lectures, wrote many books, and in one particular writing of his, he said that, in essence, he said that it's if one can save a soul from the grip of Maya, from the grip of illusion, that's the greatest service. And he said that's the business of the preacher, to transform the degraded taste of the general population. And back in his time, that's what he was doing. He was transforming the degraded taste, and it attracted so many people. He had thousands of disciples all over India, and he attracted so many people to him, and very qualified people, materially and spiritually. And of course he attracted Srila Prabhupada. That's most qualified. Because of his dedication, because of his just being an acharya, somebody who teaches by example. And so, as we all know, it's not easy to be any type of teacher, because one is that we have to teach by example. That's not so easy. That means we got to do it. We can't just, right? Oh, do this, do this, do this, do this, do this. Why? It says in the books, it says in the books, it says in the books, right? Okay, but what are you doing? If you're not doing it, then no one, who's going to follow? People aren't stupid, even though we may think they are. In many ways, people aren't stupid. In many ways, you could say they are, but so the principle of acharya, which is so important, because preaching by example. Because without the acharya, we are actually completely lost, like absolutely lost. In that we, especially nowadays, if there's no acharya, or no acharya came to America, like Srila Prabhupada, right, our founder acharya, completely lost. Civilization completely lost. I mean, people get absorbed in politics ad infinitum, right? Just completely obsessed, absorbed, addicted. That's all they could think about, When we have one devotee, I tell him, anyways, I'm not mentioning his name, so I guess I'll say it, but sometimes he has like this inclination towards being against certain political agendas, namely Democratic Party, and he has some he has some trip about homosexuality, or he has some trip about Hispanic population, all this type of stuff, right? So I tell him that you better be careful, because you're going to die and you're going to take birth as a Hispanic, homosexual, democratic devotee because you have some Krishna mixed in there. So I said, you got to be careful because you're going to end up becoming something that you don't want because you're absorbing so much of your time in it. But anyways, God bless him, and hopefully he, we'll see how it all works out. Hopefully at the end of, throughout his life and end of life he could, just get some heavy mercy. Right? But at the point, whatever the case is, whatever people get absorbed in, there's a million, billion, trillion, quadrillion, what is it, umpteen or something? I don't know. There's so much people could get absorbed in and just completely dedicate their life to, even though it makes no sense whatsoever, ultimately. So without the Acharya coming to America, that's how America is. I mean, people dedicate their lives to so much, so many things that just don't make any sense, ultimately speaking. But then the Acharya comes, right? And what are you doing? You're wasting your human form of life. Don't do this. Don't do that. Why are you living like a Dvipadapashu, two-legged animal? Wake up, wake up, wake up. Human form of life. You're the soul. You're not the body. Go back to Godhead. There's a spiritual world. There's a God. It's not just, it's not that it's God is dead or, God is an old man or this or that or so many things. So by the call of the Acharya, he's able to round up some sincere souls, just like Srila Prabhupada, right? So BhaktisiddhantaSaraswatiThakura did that. He rounded up some sincere souls, and most importantly for us and the world is Srila Prabhupada, our Srila Prabhupada. And that's what Srila Prabhupada did. He himself became, Acharya, preaching Acharya, in the full sense, and he rounded up some souls, some sincere souls, and then it's continuing. So how we all come into that, how we play our part, where do we fall into all this? Well, we're recipients of all that mercy coming down from the disciplic succession, and at least one of us in this room are grandsons of BhaktisiddhantaSaraswatiThakura, and we, the others, all of the rest of us, are great-grandsons. And I guess in generations to come, there'll be great-great-great-great-great-great-great-grandsons. Far back, who knows, 1,000 years or something. So practically speaking, we are really close. We're really close to BhaktisiddhantaSaraswatiThakura, just in the matter of time. And we should be very fortunate about that. Like Bajranarayan Swami, he brought up, who wrote the Chaitanya Charitamrita? Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. And he wasn't personally, with Mahaprabhu in his pastimes, but he was hearing from the devotees about Mahaprabhu, and he wrote it down, because he's such a, Kaviraj, king of poets, right? So we're also very close. Those of us, grandson, great-grandson, very close. So it's a very fortunate opportunity. And so one of the things that the Acharya, they teach us, okay, what is a weed, and what is a creeper? It means there's, Brahmanda Brahmati Kon Bhagyavan Jeev Guru Krishna Prasade Pai Bhakti Lata Bij. So by the mercy of the Guru, by the mercy of Krishna, one comes in contact with the Guru. By the mercy of Guru, one comes in contact with Krishna. They get the Bhakti Lata Bij, the seed of devotion, seed of bhakti. And by that watering process, their love for Krishna develops, right? So the Acharya, BhaktisiddhantaSaraswati Prabhupada, they spend a lot of their time in their books and their teachings teaching us what's examples of watering the weed and what's examples of watering the creeper. In other words, what to do and what not to do. And that's important. Like, there was one bhakta here, he was out in the garden, and it was like japa time, and he's chanting his japa, and he was apparently doing it inattentively, and then he was, watering the garden out there. He was chanting his japa, and then and then Rajendananda Prabhu walked out there and he said, "Hey, Bhakti so and so," and then he said, and then that Bhakti said, "Oh yeah, hey," he was like, watering and chanting, and then Rajendananda Prabhu said, "Hey, are you watering the weeds? Or are you watering the creeper?" And the devotee kind of like, "Oh, well, so." So he's telling him, in other words, hey, maybe you should just not do that, just chant. Or like, anyways, there's millions of examples of, things. But one devotee, he was, one devotee here, Mohan Vilas, old devotee here, now he's in Hawaii, enjoying in Hawaii or serving in Hawaii, whatever he's doing. He was saying that he had a friend, and the friend, he was like selling paintings or something, but he would go into all these parties and try to, mix with the karmi people to try to sell paintings. And it started that, the Surk Jana, right, started to wear on him, in the sense that they say, hey man, you're here at the party, hey, let's have a little champagne, right? Have a little wine or whatever, So he started doing that. But aside from doing that, which was a compromise, but aside from doing that, he, apparently there was some nice devotee girl who wanted to marry him. But somehow or other he was, getting attracted to this other girl who was, part of this party, who wasn't a devotee, right? Probably she was more beautiful or whatever. I don't know, more intelligent, who knows? Just like, right, Dhruva Maharaj's father, I'm not comparing this fellow to Dhruva Maharaj's father, but Uttanapada, right, he had the two wives. What is it? Suniti, which means, virtuous one, right? And then you have Suruchi, very beautiful. So, she was probably more beautiful or something, who knows. But he got attracted to her, and yeah, he ended up, girlfriend, boyfriend, and then they married, and then, fast forward 20, 30, 40 years, and, they're still together, but, Krishna consciousness is like, just gone somewhere, not nowhere to be found, practically speaking, within his life. So it was, you could say, like a small little mistake, but that that ended up decades of, reaction. So it was he was watering the weeds, and this guy, he was a devotee. He was, chanting, and so therefore, Prabhupada would always say, right, it's like a razor's edge. You could really nicely shave your face or shave your head, but one slight inattentive move and causes havoc. Or just like driving, right? One slight inattentive move and just havoc. Or we had one bhakta in India. He was haggling. I think I said this before, but it's relevant. But he was haggling with those, you sit down, the barbershop, and he was haggling with the fellow who uses a straight edge razor to cut your hair, your hair. So he's haggling with him because whatever he wanted 60 rupees, and he was saying no, 25, or it's like really, well before, and he was like really haggling, and 25, right? Before, and then the barber said, okay, fine, 25, and because this devotee, he was a Sankirtan devotee, so he had some passion and some convincing power. So the barber did it, but he said it was the most painful haircut he ever got in his life. Don't ever argue or unnecessarily haggle with somebody who has a razor, it's like shaving your head, So it's dangerous, that inattentive. What to speak of somebody else's inattentive. So yeah, the Charya, they teach us what to do and what not to do, which practically means they teach us how to be a devotee. Because the Surak Jana, the demoniac, people, they don't know what is to be done and what is not to be done. Right? That's the definition. They don't know. And you could say they're innocent, innocent asuras or something, but the fact is they just don't know, and that's what makes them fallen, that's what makes them sinful, that makes them immoral, that makes them a non-devotee. They just don't know. That's what it says in the Bhagavad Gita. They don't know what to do and they don't know what not to do. So, one thing that BhaktisiddhantaSaraswatiThakura teaches us is to really try to absorb ourselves in Krishna consciousness. And you could say, as like a preparation for preaching, we have to absorb ourselves in Krishna. But even if one's not some, world preacher or whatever, big preacher, this and that, we have to prepare ourselves just for the day, the challenges of the day, dealing with people, dealing with things, dealing with their mind, dealing with services. It's a challenge. So he teaches us how to prepare. That's what Srila Prabhupada did too. Our Srila Prabhupada, before he came to America, he was in Vrindavan for 12 years. And what was Prabhupada doing there? He wasn't spacing out on any level. Prabhupada was really focused, studying and chanting and praying to Rupa Goswami and taking darshan of all the deities and writing his Bhagavatam. He was getting ready, prepared to hop on that, to board the boat, Jaladuta, come to America. So you could say, oh, well, he's acharya, he's coming from the spiritual world. Why would he have to do that? Why would he have to prepare? Okay, you may say that, or we may say that, but one thing is that, at least from one point of view, is that you could say that they do this for our example. Means, not for our example, means for our benefit, in the sense that if we want to take on some challenging thing like life, or what to speak of some challenging preaching, then we also have to prepare. It's not just like, Krishna is going to unleash us on the world if we're not prepared, or even unleash us on anything, because Krishna wants the devotees to be prepared. Means qualified. So in one particular stage of his life, it says when he was 31, which is interesting because I just read this, I was preparing to read this section, but I didn't notice he was 31 because I'm 31. But during 1905, at age 31, Sri Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur took a vow to chant daily at least 3 lakh holy names, and monthly at least 10 million, until he chanted 1 billion names. So, and then there's a little footnote here. It says, with 16 names and 1 recitation of the Maha Mantra and 108 recitations in a round, 1 lakh of names are chanted in just over 58 rounds. However, a lakh of names is generally equated to 64 rounds. Chanting 3 lakhs of names daily had been the practice of Namacharya Srila Dasa Thakur, and that example is considered the ideal of non-bhajan to be aspired for practitioners of the holy name. So 3 lakh. That's a lot. Yeah. So he chanted on japa given by Bhaktivinoda Thakur, beads, who had himself used them to fulfill a vow of chanting 1 billion holy names. So those are powerful beads. Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Yeah. Who chanted 1 billion names on them. So those are powerful beads. Sri Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur's Shatakoti Nam Yagya, which he performed before a deity of Lord Chaitanya, lasted just over 9 years and 4 months. So he was just chanting 9 years, 4 months. And was punctuated by much struggle and several colorful incidents, including attempts to oust him from Mayapur. Yet he was determined to continue service there no matter what. Sri Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur cleared an overgrown area at the Yoga Pit and made a grass hut in which he lived from 1905 to 1909 amid his many books and manuscripts. In concord with Alankara Shastra describing green as expressive of Viraha Bhav, he preferred to use green items. For instance, wearing a green shawl in winter and writing with green ink. He wore only plain unstitched cloth on both his upper and lower body, using neither shirts nor sweaters, and gave up footwear even though his feet would bleed. Once daily he cooked plain rice in a clay pot and ate nothing more, so he just had rice. He slept minimally on the earthen floor of his hut, bathed in the Ganga and the rest of the time chanted day and night on the same beads Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur had given him in childhood, which he used throughout his sojourn in this world. Occasionally he took black pepper to offset the nausea caused by his virtual fasting. In the heat of summer he would close the door and go on chanting all day and night. Whenever rain leaked through the roof thatch, he sat on an umbrella and continued chanting. Srila Gaurakrishnadas Babaji Maharaj remarked, "I see the renunciation of Sri Rupa Raghunath manifest in my Prabhu." So, it was like, because Raghunath Das Goswami, he was, he's like the main emblem of renunciation, so it was pretty severe. Even while executing his vow, Sri Siddhanta Saraswati also managed the affairs of the Yoga Pit, wrote extensively, including an elaborate commentary on Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, completed in 1916, and spoke at length to the occasional visitors who took the trouble to approach that remote spot. Despite living as an eremite, Sri Siddhanta Saraswati was gradually becoming known as an extraordinary ascetic, scholar, and an uncompromising exponent of devotional precepts. As his reputation spread, pundits came from far away as Puri in Vrindavan to seek his education of philosophical points, and among those who came to inquire from him, several young men found themselves compelled to surrender at his lotus feet. Some of these early disciples remained in secular life, and a few gave up all other engagements to live with him full time. So, and after that, after he completed his vow, which was an amazing vow. I mean, you're not going to eat rice. All you're going to eat for the next 9 years and 4 months is rice. Despite the heat and the cold and this and that, you're going to chant every day so many rounds for 9 years and 4 months. I mean, that's like really intense. So then after that, he went out to preach, and he went to Calcutta, and that's where he met Srila Prabhupada. And of course, we know the pastime, how that all happened, and inspired Prabhupada to come eventually to America. So there's a few other small things I like to read. This is some interesting pastimes when he was staying in Mayapur, which were quite mystical and magical, and Another time in the middle of the night, Srimat Tirtha Maharaj roused the devotees. Okay, we'll go back. Once Srila Saraswati Thakur came out from Bhakti Vijay Bhavan. So Bhakti Vijay Bhavan was a house, more or less, a little place, created by Yoga Pit, Lord Chaitanya's birthplace, for Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur to study, to read, to chant, to meditate in seclusion, quiet, without people bothering him. And then sometimes he would come out and his disciples would. So before, he was actually living 30 minutes away in a very remote place, 30 minutes from Mayapur. And then one of his disciples, created this for him. So one day, he came up from Bhakti Vijay Bhavan around 2 a.m, calling, "Everyone look, see over there? Gauranga and Nittar are going on Sankirtan. Follow them, come and see." All the devotees rushed out, but no one could see them. So he got up at 2 a.m. and told the devotees this. Another time in the middle of the night, Srimat Tirtha Maharaj roused the devotees. "Get up, look at what is going on." Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur also woke and said, "Just see, the Panchatattva are going by, chanting and performing Sankirtan. Come, let's follow them." The devotees accompanied their guru out into the darkness. Just imagine out the darkness in Mayapur, especially back then. Wasn't all the lights like there are now. The devotees accompanied their guru out in the darkness, but only Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur and Srimat Tirtha Maharaj could see them. Such incidents were not uncommon in the pastimes of Srila Saraswati Thakur, especially in Navadvip Dham. So here's another one. One time at Bhakti Vijay Bhavan around midnight, a sound woke Seva Vilas Brahmachari. He arose and beheld Srila Saraswati Thakur striding toward the south, absorbed in thought. Seeing him going alone in the deep night, Seva Vilas Prabhu thought it was wise to follow. Reaching the Yogapith, Srila Saraswati Thakur prostrated in respect, and after proceeding a little farther south, he repeatedly cried, Ha Sachinandana Goda Hari, and again made Dandavat. Ha is an exclamation, oh. Soon, tumultuous kirtan became audible, and many devotees approached, sounding mridangas, kartals, conchas, and gongs. Srila Saraswati Thakur offered Dandavat to them. They reciprocally offered Dandavat and then said, Srila Saraswati Thakur, today we are graced with darshan of the lotus feet of you, who are eternal associate of Lord Chaitanya and a most dear manjari of Radha. Glance mercifully upon and favor the lowly fallen souls. By your mercy, that of Shri Gaurasundar and his Dham is attained. In humility-laden tones, Srila Saraswati Thakur replied, You are all Vaishnavas of Shvetadvip, eternal Gordam Vasis and servants of Lord Chaitanya. Our only desire is to attain your mercy. So Shvetadvip is a section of the spiritual world where Navadvip, the portion of the spiritual world to which Navadvip of this planet Earth is equivalent. So in the spiritual world there's a section where you could go, Lord Chaitanya's pastimes. Those divine beings offered prayers to Srila Saraswati Thakur and resumed kirtan. They offered Dandavat before the Yogapith, plaintively crying, Ha Sachinandana Ha Gaudhari, please reveal your Dham and form. Ha Sachi Devi Ha Jagannath. Mercifully bestow upon us service to Sri Guru Hari. After circumambulating the Yogapith, a temple 4 times while performing kirtan, they rolled in the dust of the adjacent forecourt of Sachi Devi. Then they seated Srila Saraswati Thakur before them and with palms joined in respect said, Srila Saraswati Thakur, you are Sri Gauri's dearest servant, the fulfiller of his manobhishta. Having heard of your qualities from Lord Chaitanya's topmost associates, we came for darshan of your lotus feet and to hear from you the pastimes enacted by Lord Chaitanya on this earthly plane. Kindly fulfill our entreaty. After begging their blessing to recite, Srila Saraswati Thakur discoursed from Gaur Lila Kathas described in authoritative biographies. Enriched with his own unique realizations, Siddhanta explanations of its intricacies, non-stop until the chirping of the birds of the Dham announced the coming Aurora. Yeah. Before parting, the residents of Shvetadvip requested Srila Saraswati Thakur to speak Gaur Lila Katha to them every night. Then they offered mutual dandavat and returned to their respective abodes. So, I mean, these are some quite far out, spectacular things. I mean, getting his disciples 2 in the morning saying, oh, you see? I mean, who could understand? But at least we could read, right? So there's so many wonderful pastimes, and this is also another interesting about the glories of Kurukshetra. This is told by Srimad B.R. Sridhar Maharaj, BhaktisiddhantaSaraswatiThakura's disciple. So it's not too long. I'll read it. But it's quite interesting, and it's Srila BhaktisiddhantaSaraswatiThakura revealing some information about Kurukshetra. So Sri BhaktisiddhantaSaraswatiThakura Prabhupada was thinking of opening a theistic exhibition in Kurukshetra, showing with dioramas how Krishna and his friends came there from Dwarka, and the gopis from Vrindavan. It is mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam that during the solar eclipse they came to bathe in Brahmakund, a sacred lake in Kurukshetra. Srila Prabhupada wanted to show that pastime with a diorama, and so the exhibition was arranged. He had handbill invitations printed and 20,000 circulated in the area. In this connection, he told us, so this is what he said, all of you know that only the bogus, hollow people and men of shallow thinking like Vrindavan. I was very much perplexed to hear this. I had been told that Vrindavan is the highest place of spiritual perfection. I had heard that one who has not mastered his senses cannot enter Vrindavan. Only liberated souls can enter Vrindavan and have the opportunity of discussing about Krishna. Vrindavan is for the liberated souls, those not liberated from the demands of their senses may live in Navadvip, but only liberated souls may live in Vrindavan. Now Prabhupada was saying that shallow thinkers appreciate Vrindavan, but a man of real bhajan, real divine aspiration, will aspire to live in Kurukshetra. Hearing this, I felt as if I had fallen from the top of a tree. What is this? I thought. I am a very acute listener, so I was very keen to catch the meaning of his words. The next thought he gave us was that after visiting many different places of pilgrimage, Bhaktivinoda Thakur remarked, I desire to spend the last days of my life in Kurukshetra. I shall construct a cottage near Brahmakund and pass the rest of my days there. Kurukshetra is the real place of bhajan. So that's what Bhaktivinoda Thakur said. Why? Service is more valuable according to the intensity of its necessity. Shrewd merchants seek a market in wartime because in that dangerous position money is spent like water, without any care for its value. They can earn more money if a war comes. In the same way, when Srimati Radharani's necessity reaches its zenith, service to her becomes extremely valuable. According to its necessity, service is valued. And in Kurukshetra, Srimati Radharani is in the utmost need because Krishna is so close, but their Vrindavan Leela is impossible. What's that? How does that go? It's a Sanskrit, I think. Yeah. You want to say it? It's good. It's a good time. A good interview. Because Krishna is so close, but the Vrindavan Leela is impossible. So yeah, when the right Krishna, he went to Dwarka and he had all the queens and he was a big, like princely, right? And he came, and somehow or other the gopis came, all the residents of Vrindavan, they all met at Kurukshetra. But the problem was that Srimati Radharani was there, but she was seeing of all these horses, and, so she was. It was difficult. But anyways, there's a nice little,
You want me to chant that verse?
Yeah.
Okay. Priyaksoyam Krishna sahakari churu. Priyaksoyam Krishna sahachadi kuru chetamilitas. Tatahang sarada tadidamapayo sangamasukam. Tatapyanta kelan morodamorali panchamadushe manome kadindi. And Pulanathapanaya Spahayati. Which means, she's Radharani speaking to one of her friends. She says, my dear friend, I have now met my very dear and old friend Krishna here at Kurukshetra. And he's the same Krishna and I'm the same Radharani. But my inner desire is to take him back to the bank of the Yamuna and to hear him play that beautiful fifth note on the flute. She wants to go back there. But there's one more. If you give me a second to find it. This is chanted by all the gopis. Here it is. Yate lila rasapadma. Here it is. Yate lila rasapadmaloga de bunya parita dunyakshauni vilasatipata madhuri madhuri bhi. Tatrasmabhis chatalapashupi bhava mugdantarabi sambitastram kalayabadano lasi venu viharam. So this is also the gopi speaking to Krishna on Battle of Kurukshetra, but not just Radharani, all of them. Dear Krishna, the fragrance of the mellows of your pastimes is spread throughout the forests of the glorious land of Vrindavan, which is surrounded by the sweetness of the district of Mathura. In the congenial atmosphere of that wonderful land, you may enjoy your pastimes with your flute dancing on your lips and surrounded by us, the gopis, whose hearts are always enchanted by unpredictable ecstatic emotions. So they're all praying that he come back there.
They're praying for him to come back.
Could you give the audience a little explanation on that mysterious fifth note?
I don't really... Okay.
Basically, the fifth note is musical expression of Krishna's love for the gopis.
Oh yes. Well, I heard in the Bhakti Brihad Bhagavat. No, sorry, that's my godbrother's name. Bhakti Brihat Bhagavat Swami. I heard it, no, but I heard in the Brihat Bhagavat Tamrita that when Krishna plays his flute, it's attracting all living entities, but specifically, at least with the cows, and it might be for everyone, but at least with the cows, when he plays the flute, it's like for every single cow they all have names. They hear that flute as Krishna calling them their names personally, so it's quite interesting. So the flute's very special, very right. Yeah, trying to track this back. In a football game, if the ball, soccer game, if the ball is just inches from the goal but again comes back, is considered a major loss. In the same way, after a long separation, Krishna is there in Kurukshetra, so the hankering for union felt by his devotees must come to its zenith. But because he is in the role of a king, they cannot meet him intimately. The circumstances do not allow the Vrindavan Leela to take place. So, just one more paragraph. So at that time, Srimati Radharani needs the highest service from her group, the Sakhis. Bhaktivinoda Thakur says that in that situation, a drop of service will draw the greatest amount of prema. In the pastimes of Radha Govinda, there are two aspects, Sambhog, divine union, and Vipralamba, divine separation. When Radha and Krishna are very near to each other but cannot meet intimately, at that time service can draw the greatest gain for the servitors. Therefore, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, I shall construct a hut on the bank of Brahmakund and Kurukshetra and contemplate rendering service to the divine couple. If I can achieve that standard where the prospect of service is so high, then there is no possibility of ever returning to this mundane plane. So, the football examples from him, but this particular quote, Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, quote, I shall construct, mundane plane. So there's a few quotes from Bhaktisiddhanta and a few quotes from Bhaktivinoda Thakur, but he wrote the whole thing. So anyways, there's so many, it's 3 volumes of this. Bhakti Vikas Swami Ki Jai. So he poured his, all of his energy and all of his, and my spiritual master said that, he glorified this book, and he said that he said, I'm a grandson of BhaktisiddhantaSaraswatiThakura, and he said that, but before I read this book, I felt that I never really knew him so well. But he said, after I read this book, I felt very close to him and that I knew him a lot better. Which means you could appreciate, right? So, there's 3 volumes of this. There's so many lectures. There's so many pastimes. So many books of his. So the idea is to, get absorbed in him and remembering him and his pastimes and teachings, and then somehow they try to follow. And then, today we're having we're meeting at 11:50. We'll do Puspanjali, offer Arti, Kirtan, and then have a feast in honor of BhaktisiddhantaSaraswatiThakura. So, okay, so does anybody have any? Only rice. We're going to chant it. We're going to chant. Does any? Brown rice. Brown rice fast with a bunch of rounds. So does anybody have any questions or comments? One time Prabhupada was in LA and devotees were supposed to cook the lunch feast for Prabhupada, or for BhaktisiddhantaSaraswatiThakura, and then somehow the devotees thought, not so many people are coming in the afternoon like today probably. So we'll celebrate in the evening. We'll have a big feast in the evening. And Prabhupada was really upset. Really upset. So then he said, no, that you can't. And he went down there and apparently cooked this big feast in like an hour's time with the help of devotees, cutting the vegetables, and Prabhupada cooks them. So.
Was that the same time where they didn't know what to do and come to do some pushpa?
I think that's when. I think that's when they were in Hong Kong and they were doing Vyasa Puja for Prabhupada. And Prabhupada was really upset because they had Kirtananda Swami was there, and Prabhupada's first sannyasi. So that, but there was a new man there, newer devotee. So then Prabhupada he said, why is he offering the arati to me? Kirtananda, he should be offering. And then, Prabhupada wants pushpa, flowers, and then, they go in the kitchen, start making pushpa rice, Yeah, pushpana rice, fancy rice, and it was just a big disaster. But then the next day, Prabhupada told devotees, okay, do this, and then they figured it out. Of course, you could argue they should have known by then, but whatever. It's a pastime for our sake, right? Now we could learn from it. So any last comment or question? Grantaraj Srimad Srila BhaktisiddhantaSaraswatiThakura ki